What is up, everyone? I am Joseph, and welcome to another Run Escape podcast, a podcast where I spend way too much time going way too in-depth into a game that I spend way too much time playing. And of course, that game is RuneScape, and specifically old school RuneScape. Today's video is going to be about Dragon Slayer 2, and more specifically if the requirements are too easy. The requirements, if you did not know, were released today for the upcoming quest Dragon Slayer 2, and there's been a lot of talk about if these requirements are fitting of a Grand Master quest, and that's what I wanted to discuss today. So let's just get right into it. Really simply, are these requirements too low? No, I actually think they're very fitting of a quest of this caliber, and I'm going to defend that statement by looking at two specific areas. And those areas are the relevance of skill levels in questing and the historic trends for Grandmaster quests in general in RuneScape. Now, there are other requirements, the quest requirements. Just keep in mind I'm focusing primarily on the skill requirements, as that's where a lot of the discussion has arisen over if there should be, for example, a level 80 skill in the requirements. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the relevance of skills in quests. Quests in RuneScape have always been different than quests in other big name MMOs. Rather than the quests being the main source of progression, such as in a game like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars, quests in RuneScape have been generally more supplementary and story-driven parts of the game that, with very few exceptions, are not required for playing or progressing in the game normally. Other than bypassing a few early game levels, questing is generally not used as a way to directly progress your account stats and relies to improve or unlock additional methods, with the exception of a quest like Druidic Ritual, which is required for the Herblore skill. Because of this disconnect, skill requirements and activities involving skills directly inside of a quest are generally not used as the primary focuses of these quests, and they act more as soft entry-level gates. And I'm going to use that term quite a bit. And what I mean by soft entry-level gates is it just acts as a way to prevent very low levels from entering this quest or completing this quest. An example is the quest The Eyes of Glaufrey. This quest has a 46 magic level requirement, and this magic level is used to communicate with Hazelmere during the quest. However, the real content from this quest comes from the puzzle solving and the storyline itself. The magic level did almost nothing to increase the difficulty or enjoyment factor of the quest, and its only purpose was to act as what I described before as a soft entry level gate. And the only thing it really adds to the quest is it lets you talk to Hazelmere. However, that activity could have been done by any other skill, meaning that magic didn't have to be the requirement. It was only added as a requirement because it fit the theme and the lore, and just to prevent those with really low levels from looking at this quest. Now, I'm not trying to devalue the use of skills in quests or skill requirements in general, but what I want to highlight is that these requirements are more supplementary to the main content of the quest itself and shouldn't define the quest. They can act to serve as a general approximation of the quest's difficulty, but it should never go past just that estimation. So for example, in the quest we were previously talking about, The Eyes of Glaufrey, that magic level serves to give a general approximation of how difficult or where your account should be in order to do that quest, but you can do that quest at any point in the game as long as you have that magic level. Unlike content like the achievement diaries, the main difficulty or content is not in the skill itself. Even though a quest may have low requirements or a quest may have high requirements, that doesn't directly tie into the overall difficulty of the quest. I apologize if my train of thought is a little bit scattered, but the reason I wanted to hit all of those points was to show the disconnect between the skills themselves and the quests that contain these requirements, and to show that just because this new quest, Dragon Slayer 2, will not have a level 80 skill requirement, does not mean it's not deserving of the Grandmaster title. And that kind of leads us on to our next point, which is talking about historic Grandmaster quests in RuneScape. And the three we're going to focus on for now is While Guthix Sleeps, Nomads Requiem, and Monkey Madness 2. Now these are three Grandmaster quests, and they all are a little bit different in what makes them Grandmaster. For example, While Guthix Sleeps was a quest that maybe wasn't so difficult for the PVM aspect, but was very long and intricate. There were a lot of things that made this quest difficult in its own sense, not only the length, but also the puzzles involved and just the whole progression, and also the lore that it tied into it. And that's a big thing, I think, in Grandmaster quests, is the effect it has on the overall lore of RuneScape. The second quest is Nomads Requiem, and this quest was difficult for another reason. The PVM aspect of this quest was very steep. At the time, I was playing when this quest came out, and I know a lot of maxed players who had difficulty with that final boss. And that's what I think made this quest a Grandmaster quest. While it did have relevance to the lore, I think the biggest benefit to this quest was the difficulty, and specifically the PVM difficulty. It had a very steep learning curve and took players quite a while to get this quest down and to get that final boss down. The last quest I wanted to mention was Monkey Madness 2. And this was considered a Grandmaster quest, in my opinion, for a kind of a combination of the different reasons. It had some PVM, some higher level PVM content in it. It had a few different bosses and a boss with a few different phases. It had some puzzles which worked to extend the time, but also they were challenging in and of themselves. And there were some other intricate parts of the quest, such as, hiding from the monkeys when you're trying to do that whole maze thing. So there were a few different areas that would put this in the classification as a Grandmaster quest. However, in these three quests, the things that really didn't make them a Grandmaster quests were their entry-level requirements. All three of these quests had fairly low entry-level skill requirements, and they're really on par with what the Dragon Slayer 2 requirements look like they're going to be. For Nomads Requiem, we had 75 magic as the highest skill requirement, and at the time, that really wasn't a difficult thing to obtain. One of the most difficult things probably for that quest was the 66 mining, would probably have taken the longest, but even that is not a super high level. For While Gothic Sleeps, you had a few 65 skills, such as Herblore and Farming, and again the 75 magic, but it wasn't anything over the top. There were no 80 plus skills, and really in general, the hardest thing about the requirements for that quests were the quest requirements, not the skill requirements. And for Monkey Madness 2, you only had one level 70 skill, which was crafting, and the next highest being 69 Slayer, with the rest of them being in the 50s to 60s. So all three of these were Grandmaster quests, but they didn't have high entry-level requirements because what made them difficult quests was the content itself. And that's really what I want to focus on, and what I think Dragon Slayer 2 will be prominent in is the content of the quest, whether it's PVM difficulty, which I think this quest will lean a little bit heavier towards just due to the nature of Dragon Slayer, but also puzzles and just the length of the quest itself. And you may disagree with the fact that those were difficult quests. Maybe you think they weren't difficult, and that's fine to think. However, that's how Grandmaster quests are in this game. You're really not going to get anything more difficult than Nomads Requiem on release, or how Monkey Madness 2 overall was on release. Yeah, they could have been more difficult in certain areas, and they could have balanced it a little heavier. However, that's the type of content to expect from a Grandmaster quest, and that's what I expect Dragon Slayer 2 to be. I personally appreciate the fact that they are continuing with this trend of Grandmaster quests having skill requirements that are in the 60 to 70 range, and I think that's good to prevent a situation of power creep where you have a level 80 plus skill requirement for this skill, and the next time you have the precedent of topping, so you have to keep going higher and higher, and you just get out of control at that point. And I really like the focus on the content itself and not so much on the entry level. So that's really what I wanted to talk about. I apologize if my thought process was a little scattered. I didn't have a lot of time to plan this out. I kind of just wanted to talk about it, something that was relevant and something that I just noticed that a lot of people were speaking up on, and I wanted to throw my opinion into the ring. But that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you next time.